Thank you for tuning in to episode 240 of This Week in Real Estate, the T-Wire podcast, broadcast live Wednesday, July 19th, 2023. Which cities will burn? Will real estate collapse? This episode was brought to you by listeners and viewers like you. We don't have a Patreon any way for you to give me some money, so the best way you could support the show is to take a second of your time right now and to share it with other people that you think might be interested in a real estate news podcast. And also, I should probably mute my phone. Even though it's on Do Not Disturb, it still rings. Explain that, Steve Jobs. Anyway, I guess Tim Cook. If you're joining us on YouTube, we can display your comments and talk about you, or we could talk about your comment, just like Matt Lamar said. He's first today. He's tuning in. He's saying good morning. Good morning, Matt. Thanks for joining us. Olivier's here too. What's up, Olivier? If you're joining us on Clubhouse, you can actually join the conversation live. Just raise your hand and come up and you can speak about any of the articles or topics that we're covering. So this podcast was created so that you could have one place to go with a succinct, professional analysis of the news headlines from those of us that are still active in the field. This isn't just a bunch of newsy journalists. We actually sell stuff. So without further ado, let me introduce this week's guest. First up, we needed to add someone spicy to the show. So I have probably my spiciest guest ever, Matt Petullo. What's up, man?
Wow, hey, what an intro. I wouldn't necessarily call myself spicy. I'm more of like maybe a mild to a medium hot, but I'll take it. If that's my role today, I'll spice it up for you, man.
No, it was really, we're talking a lot about fire and cities burning, so I thought that was appropriate. And also, I was watching both of your faces backstage because we have another guest, and neither of you knew exactly who I'd bring up at that moment. And for me, that was pleasurable. So the other guy joining us is Tim Macy. What's up, Tim?
I definitely, I could be medium hot. I think that's what people call me sometimes.
Schmedium, I think is So we are just us three making the show international. I mean, already we span the globe from Arkansas all the way to California, depending on which way you go. We would stop by Tim, who is currently in Northern England, right, Tim?
Old Nassington. Yeah,
Nassington.
It's a nice little English village.
And it's beautiful this time of year. I don't know.
Dude, I'm just dodging the Texas heat is what I'm doing. That's what I got going on.
Not a bad idea. Is it rainy?
Yeah.
Is it rainy there?
It's not too bad. Like, this is the 1 month to be here, and then after that it's cloudy and rainy all year. So
it's like
I
Seattle.
pick my spots. Yeah.
Well, thanks for joining, Tim. Tim's a real estate agent in San Antonio. Matt, you're a real estate agent. I'm going to call it the Bay Area.
Yeah, that's accurate.
What areas do you serve over in the Bay?
So, I mean, but here's the thing. When I start breaking down the Bay Area, anybody outside of the Bay Area has no idea what I'm talking about.
That's probably true.
So
use
if
like a big city.
Yeah. So if I'm like a big city, the Vallejo, most people know Vallejo.
Okay. I would argue that they don't, but that's
okay. The hyphy movement, E40, too short.
Okay.
I mean, come on. If you know a little bit of culture, you know where Vallejo's at. Okay, is all I'm saying. But no, we're about a half an hour outside of San Francisco, so we're in the burbs out here in the Bay Area.
There you go. San Francisco is going to be a big topic of the day, which is why I asked Matt to join us. So, and also thanks for joining us kind of late notice. So I appreciate that. Tim, former boxer. Matt, former musician. So there's two things you guys didn't know about both of those guys. Tim, weren't you like a junior? What's it? Golden Glove? Were you a Golden Glove?
Yeah. I won a national tournament when I was in my younger years.
There you go.
So yeah, I still knock around with the boys every once in a while. I still put the gloves on. It's always
knock
good.
around with the boys. There's all righty. Well, thanks for joining. Hey, look, there's Jenny. What's up, Jenny? She said no idea where that's at. I guess she's talking about the Nassington.
Look, I think a lot of our geography about major cities has come from hip hop in the 2000s, for sure.
That's true. Oh yeah, she was talking about Vallejo. That's what she was talking about, not Nassington.
Yeah, of course. I could have told you that.
Sorry. Scap says display my comment. So there you go. Display my comment. He actually made his previous one, which was this one. He says, thanks for The invite to go west, Matt. I guess I'll keep playing golf today. Are you out on the course right now listening to us? That's happened a couple of times. Well, thank you guys for joining us. We have some fun news topics. It's always fun for me to kind of dive just slightly below the headlines, because if you live in the headline world, which is where most consumers are, then you're going to be reading this stuff and not really know what is happening. Or if you know what's happening, you may not see exactly how it's going to affect you as a consumer or as a professional in the industry. So the reason why we created this show is because there were so many headlines. We were talking about, this newscaster says it's terrible, and this newscasters look at the exact same data saying things are amazing. What's the right answer? And I think that's a lot of what we're going to see today. I told someone this week, they found out I was in real estate. It was somebody that had just met. They're like, "Oh, real estate." And I said, "Yeah." They said, "Man, I guess it's terrible right now, right?" And I said, "Well, it's not too bad." He said, "Yeah, but you're not selling anything in this market, right?" I was like, "Well, yeah, we're selling stuff. It's still pretty good." He was like, "Well, I mean, what do you got? Like one or two? I mean, you can't be." I was like, "No, we got like 22 pending." And he went, "What?" He said, "Well, these must be idiots. These aren't people smart with the money." I was like, "No, about 50% of them are investors." He's like, "What?" So that's what I'm finding over and over in this market, that people have no concept of what's the give and take in the industry. And I think agents are kind of sitting on this hot seat in the middle. So that's my intro for today's news. I want you to listen for and hear kind of both sides of what's happening. So let me dive right into the first headline. Oh, I got to share my screen. Bear with me while I produce stuff. Okay, here we are. This first one is talking about home builder sentiment. Home builder sentiment has traditionally been high throughout the show. I mean, we've been doing this. This is 240th episode, so we've been doing this over 5 years. It's traditionally been high until last year. It started to go down the year before, and then last year it was below 50%. So on the home builder sentiment, anything over 50% is considered positive. So in this story, it says home builder sentiment rises again in July, but builders warn higher mortgage rates are hurting. Builder sentiment market for single family homes rose 1 point in July to 56, according to the National Association of Home Builders Wells Fargo Housing Market Index. It marks the 7th straight month of gains and the highest level since June of 2022. A reading above 50 is considered positive. Here's a quote from Robert Dietz. He's NAHB's chief economist. He says, although builders continue to remain cautiously optimistic about market conditions, the quarter-point rise in mortgage rates over the past month is a stark reminder of the stop and start process the market will experience as the Federal Reserve nears the end of its ongoing tightening cycle. That was a long breath and a long read, but basically he's saying volatility is painful. Of NAHB's 3 components, current sales conditions in July rose 1 point to 62. Buyer traffic increased 3 points to 40, and the highest reading since June of last year. The sales expectation in the next 6 months fell 2 points to 60. So the drop in expectations is largely, I just exited myself. The drop in expectations is largely due to where they fear the interest rate will be. So Matt, in your area, I mean, California, y'all are probably building like crazy. What do you hear from builders right now?
I hope you're being facetious, because California has been in a housing crisis for as long as I've been a real estate agent. That's all I've heard.
What?
Yeah. Basically what that means is the demand for houses is so much higher than the supply that we have right now. And we have been trying to catch up for years and years and years. But the problem is kind of what you alluded to, Ray, is it's the cost of building houses, especially here in California, one of, if not the most expensive state, are so high. Builders really have to have an optimal playing field in order to get things done with the budget they have and then make a profit, because they have to make money on it too. When times were good in the 2020, 2021, well, times were good, I guess, for builders, not so much for the rest of the world in that time, but they were able to produce houses. Interest rates were low. People were buying up the new construction, what little we had here. They were going like crazy. They were giving no concessions. People were throwing multiple offers in. I mean, it was a madhouse over here. As soon as interest rates started to tick up, everything stopped, especially new homes being built and new homes being purchased. So so the new home builders, they were throwing out concessions to people like crazy, trying to get them, please buy our house. We'll give you this much off of the price. We'll give you these many free amenities and free upgrades. I mean, just desperately trying to get people in there because these houses were sitting there vacant and we're losing the investors, the builders, everybody money month over month over month, and they're not cheap. So it was a big hit to their bank account. And in lieu of what you mentioned from that article, when we have seen interest rates start to ease up even just a little bit, new builds are starting to be purchased more by buyers because buyers now see it as a more feasible option, especially after all of the cuts that they were able to get in there. So it is a very dance sort of a vibe where buyers very much flow with the interest rates and the availability and the affordability of homes, and the home buyers are kind of stuck, or excuse me, the home builders are kind of stuck in the middle of that a little bit, and they're sort of at the whim and mercy of the market conditions.
Yeah, that whenever rates were around 3 or 4%, we didn't see people willy-nilly changing. I mean, we would always joke about it on the show that like, oh, the rates went up from 3.5 to 4. Surely this is going to stop, because the newscasters were like, we're already at 4%. This is going to lead to a crash in housing. And then no one, like, the purchase activity kept increasing. So I do think we're at the point at rates where people are looking at it saying, well, I do want to buy a house, but I don't think it's them saying this is a bad investment at 7%. I think it's them saying I cannot buy the house I want at 7%.
Yeah, I agree with that. Oh, go ahead, Tim. Please hop in, bud.
No, I was going to say I agree with that. I actually talked to, it's funny, in the agent and builder rep world, I was talking to a builder rep who was getting out of being a rep and going just to being an agent, because he said he sits in that office, and in the neighborhoods that he's working, like, you have to have an income of 120,000 before debt, for their debt to income ratio to be able to afford any of the houses in that neighborhood. And so what is it? 30% of households are over 120K. And then that's like only 30% that have no debt on that 120. So, it's just a lot of that, say 500,000 and up new build communities have just seen buyers disappear overnight, not because they don't want those homes, but because interest rates are just making them not possible to buy.
So if interest rates don't shake up soon, I mean, could this lead to a situation in which builders have excess inventory? Now they have to slow down building, and now they start dropping prices in new neighborhoods, and now 2008 and 9.
Yeah. So like your article said, sentiment is up in July, because I think what builders have realized is you can still get deals done. So we are seeing a lot of deals where, the builders throwing money at buying down the rate and getting creative on getting these things done. And so, like, we know, demand is outpacing supply. So people still want these homes. And I think builders are trying to realize they just have to get a little bit more creative with getting the deal done, and they don't necessarily have to pull out completely, which we did see a lot of in the fall, which I talked about on the last time I was on. Like, I got into a deal at a great price because a builder pulled out of the deal. Like, they were pulling out of everything. They were stopping everything. Now they're saying, oh, we can still make transactions happen. It's just not as easy as it was.
Yeah. Scap says, the government reducing rates so low to give a false sense of security and vibe to the customer. Now people are seeing rates as normal and looking to beat the next rate jump. There's still a lot of speculation that we could get to 5.5% towards the end of the year, but at this rate, at this rate, I don't feel it. I don't see it happening. I think closer to 6 is likely. Even if the Fed does increase rates 2 more times, I think that's going to keep the rates up. If they let the market just do its thing, I think possibly it could go down. But I think that's a scenario in which builders, if they're not building the appropriate price point, are going to be in a world of hurt. That's what I think they should watch, just like you guys were saying. The next article is kind of in the same vein. The construction of new homes fell 8% in the U.S. last month. Interesting article on CNN that also talks about some of the details about what these builders are giving. I think they said 22% of builders reported cutting prices in July, which sounds like a lot, but that's actually down from 25% in June and 27% in May. So the number of builders cutting prices is lower. It sounds like maybe they're starting to find their target market or price point, but they have slowed down on the actual builds. Despite May's breakout starts and permits data, June's numbers showed home builders are still struggling with high mortgage rates, high construction costs, and limited land to build on. That's Robert Frick. He's the corporate economist with the Navy Federal Credit Union. Quote, more new houses were never going to save housing market marked by low inventory, expensive homes, and high rates, but it's been helping this year, especially as the median price for new home has fallen. So they are starting to build a little bit cheaper is kind of what the data is showing. I mean, I beg to differ with the guy says more new homes is not going to help inventory. I mean, if you build new homes and put it out there, it's going to help some inventory. That's not, maybe he's saying that's not the single solve, but if you build a house and put it out there, that's one more, right? It's like, you know, it's like the old adage, throwing the starfish back into the ocean. It mattered to that one, right? Y'all have heard that. Y'all know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, I think what he's getting at is it's not addressing the larger problem, which is one of the articles, right? Which is less homeowners are selling their homes because everybody's locked into these low interest rates. And so we're not getting any inventory from pre-owned homes, which is the real driver of our supply issue. If we get more builders to build, it helps, but I don't think it's going to be the thing that, you know, levels the market.
Yeah, it's not the single solve. Matt, have you never heard that expression?
The starfish? Not verbatim, but I can understand it through context. Yes.
Oh my gosh. It's a poem. There's a poem.
You do the coloring books on starfish though, don't you, Matt? You love the
any seafaring coloring book. I love it, dude. I got nautilus, I got starfish, I got mollusks, I got whatever tiny, especially the tinier for some reason, like krill. Like if you give me a krill coloring book, oh man, I'm just in hog heaven, baby.
I can't tell if you're serious or if you're joking. Get this man some barnacles and let's go.
I would have assumed you were more of a manta ray guy, but hey, on to the next topic.
You know, they're really related to the Steve Irwin incident, and I was a big Steve Irwin fan, and so even though they're not one of the same, you know what I mean?
You still have some bad blood between.
I hold a bit of a grudge.
Well, if you're watching this live or in the replay, drop in the comments if you know what the starfish illustration is. It matters to that one. Is the punchline of the whole starfish thing. I know it. I think Tim knows it. Oh, there's another suggestion for you. Matt Lamarche from Atlanta says narwhals, a narwhal coloring book.
Ooh, narwhals are good. A little big, a little bit on the bigger side. If I'm feeling real saucy, I might really dive into that. Narwhals, beluga whales, blue whales, might even get an orca killer whale in there. You know, that's kind
of we're finding out Matt had one time had dreams of being a marine biologist.
There must have been. Especially if he's coloring them accurately. That's even the telltale.
Yes. Well, of course.
Oh my gosh.
I wouldn't dare disrespect the beautiful animals of the sea by miscoloring them, please.
What's our next headline?
We were talking about Midjourney before the show started because that's who created this fabulous thumbnail. And I have to say, I was telling them, whenever I create something, I feel like I've created it with Midjourney because it took me so many tries to get this right, and you have to word it right, and then you have to do variants. So I feel like I created it, and Midjourney was the paintbrush. But here's the shot of the thumbnail. So it's San Francisco on fire, burning, and you should really consider Midjourney for coloring books. So I can make Midjourney create coloring sheets.
I'd be down, Ray. I'd put them on my fridge. I'd take pictures of you and send them to you so you can see what I've done.
I'll send you a couple so you can see what it does. But what's going to happen is, because you were like, oh, you didn't create that. What's going to happen is you're going to be like, I want to figure out how to do this. And you're going to get into Midjourney to create your little seafarer coloring pages and be like, oh, look at what I've created. That's what's going to happen. Just telling you that.
I'm ready for it. I'm ready for that life for myself. Sounds lovely.
So why is the thumbnail full of San Francisco on fire? Well, that gets to our next story. And let me pause it. There you go. All right. Sorry, I had an ad playing in my ear. The San Francisco real estate market is a disaster, expert says. So the Golden City has been no stranger to the volatile housing market, but one New York City's real estate powerhouse led by a mother-daughter team, Dolly and Jenny Lenz, warns that San Francisco is now a disaster for the industry. It was once a jewel crown. San Francisco was our personal favorite city. Now it's a disaster. And you're 30 minutes away from this disaster, Matt.
I am.
They go on. Several huge hoteliers. Oh, hoteliers. Sorry.
Hoteliers.
It's over there on the side of my screen, so I can't. Several huge hoteliers have given back the keys to the lenders. They just said, you know what? I give up. I paid $1.5 billion. You gave me a $700 million loan. I can't afford to make the payments. You're not going to refinance, so I'm done. So it's kind of a mix talking about the commercial and real estate, multifamily real estate sector over there. Basically saying that there's a lot of commercial-backed securities. There's a lot of commercial loans out there, big investor loans for people that are coming up for a refi because they have a variable rate. And they can't refi for what they want because the value of the property isn't what it was. So this means that they're upside down on it. And these companies are just going to basically give the keys to the bank and say, well, you take it. The reason why these New York agents who also work in California and they also work in Florida, the reason why they're talking about it on the news is because they're worried that this is going to affect banks overall, and it's going to become a national crisis over the next 5 years. Matt, you're there. Is your city on fire?
My city is not on fire. My city is thriving. So my hometown is this little town called Benicia, and it's this tiny little sparkling jewel by the water that no one's ever heard of before. So we're pretty shielded from a lot of what happens in the Bay Area, but it does still trickle to a lot of the other areas that I do business in. And when the pandemic hit, there was a mass exodus from San Francisco. And so the ripple effect really pushed out, and we saw a flood of people come to our areas, people 20 minutes away, 30 minutes away, 40 minutes, even 45 minutes away, because people could work virtually. And that's the thing that businesses are really struggling with right now, because they pay, I can't imagine what sort of overhead and lease to own a building in San Francisco, and none of their workers want to go back to the office. I have a friend who works for Gap, Old Navy Gap, that major company, and the company is begging people to come back to the office because they have this monolith that is empty, that is costing them so much money. And all the workers are saying, but we can do our work from home, from here. Why do I need to go back to commuting and spending time in the city and gas and bridge toll that keeps going up here in the area as well? Why don't we just continue working from home and get it done? And it's because they have these offices that need to be filled by people so they can justify paying those prices. So we're seeing a lot of these major businesses, like you said, just saying we can't do it anymore. We're done. And we've seen Westfield, which had like the gigantic mall in Union Square. It was like one of the tourist places to go and one of the hubs of tourism here in San Francisco. They're closing shop. They're done. So that all the businesses in there, this gigantic mega mall is just going to be gone. And that's sort
huge.
It's huge. And it's kind of signaling what possibly else might be to come, which is why so many people are forecasting articles like these is what's coming down the pike. If these major, very well-known companies are folding up, what's going to happen next?
So I think malls should be called what they are. I mean, they're showrooms for Amazon, right? You walk around the mall, now. You get a little bit of food, you take a look around, and then while you're there, you scan the shoe. While you're there, you scan the shoe, and Amazon says, well, here, you can get it $10 cheaper. You're like, all right, put it in my cart. You try it on at the store. Yeah, that fits. 13s fit. All right, good. Put it in your cart and go.
Well, it
right?
depends on the shoe, because Tim Macy would beg to argue you're not finding the shoes he buys at the mall, is all I'm saying.
Well, Tim, what is your
It's a
take
whole
on this?
other conversation. You know?
What is your take on this crisis with the major cities? Is San Francisco the only one in trouble here, or is this gonna spread?
Look, I won't say San Francisco is the only one in trouble, but I think there are. I don't think all of them are in trouble. So when I look at a lot of the major Florida metros, a lot of the Texas metro areas, yeah, I wish they had great deals on commercial space right now in San Antonio. Like what I mean? We're not seeing a lot of the same stuff. I think it's very market specific. I think we have some big macro trends to look at, but a lot of this stuff is very market specific. So, our luxury stuff has definitely slowed down, and like our commercial stuff maybe slower, but it's not a bubble waiting to pop like it is in some other places.
Well, I think if we think about what would make someone come into the office, you have Google with these incredible office spaces and ping pong and nap rooms and all kinds of stuff. You have Apple, which requires some people to come into the office because they literally don't let some of the builds off of their system. So there's things like that that could require people to come into the office. But even if you had a really rad office where you are now, if your office culture sucked, you wouldn't want to go in, right? It doesn't matter what cool free snacks there are and your access to a conference room and a television and the training is provided. If the culture of the company sucks, you don't want to go in. You'd rather stay home. And I know there's a group of people that would rather stay home no matter what, which I probably am partial to, but there's still like, if you had like a really cool place with really cool people, you would probably want to go. And I think what we're noticing is that for many years, people kind of poo-pooed the idea of a company with cloud culture, which I coined that phrase, cloud culture - Ray Ellen. People kind of poo-pooed the idea of these cloud-based companies because they were so far ahead of anything. And then a giant pandemic sent everyone home, and we've all learned what a cloud-based business can do and how productive you can be. So I think as long as production keeps up with orders, I think as long as the individual can still put out what the company is looking for, companies need to shift their focus from office culture to cloud culture. And I think that's the only way to bring them back into the office is to change their culture and then say, hey, we have a place for that culture physically over here. But I think if you just take the existing culture that you have of people that don't want to see each other and just want to work, that's not going to be successful in a cloud culture environment. They're just going to kind of do their own thing. They're not going to connect. They're not going to turn on the camera on Zoom. And it's not going to be successful in a real brick and mortar environment. Both environments are broken. It's a culture problem.
Yeah, I think one thing Matt LaMarche brings up is Matt and I are going to trademark cloud culture with a K.
With a K, it's different than the C
we're going to go totally.
Yeah,
we're gonna make an NFT of it. We're gonna start a coaching class and the whole deal.
Yeah.
So Matt, let's do that.
I'm gonna see if cloudculturify.com is taken.
Look, the thing that I oh god, I almost just said the thing that I love about a pandemic. That is not what I meant to say. One of the things that is a positive. Listen, one of the things that is comes out of big world events like this, where the way of life completely changes, is we start to rethink the way things should go. And I think a lot of companies should be rethinking the 9 to 5 days a week work schedule. Like, is that the best way to get things done? And so it's not to say that you shouldn't have office, but can you have, 3 Zoom meetings a day on Monday, having your like highly intentional in-person time on Tuesday, and back to remote on Wednesday? Like, you can just rethink the way we do work. It's not necessarily saying no more office. It's rethinking the way we do office.
I enjoyed when I had a brick and mortar office. I enjoyed going to the office and messing around on the whiteboard and doing some thinking exercises and seeing people in person. I hated going to a meeting that could have been emailed to me.
Yeah, or could have been a Zoom call.
Oh my gosh, that was so terrible. Like, why am I sitting here? And not only that, she used to print out the sheets of paper with all the meeting things on it and give it to you and then basically read through it together. Like, I can read. I am an adult. Just give me the sheet of paper and let me go home, or send me an email and let me go home. Let me visit with people in the office, talk about what's upcoming, what's happening, what's working for you. Here's what's working for me. I could not stand that waste of time. And if I jump on a Zoom and they start going down bullet points that could have been emailed, I am done. Like, I am already working on something else on that Zoom, to be honest.
I'm with you, Ray. Before I came to the brokerage I'm at now, I was at a very big, well-established brick and mortar company, and it was just, all of it was that. It was just so old school, and oh God, there was so much bloat with everything, and it just drove me insane. It was a time suck more than anything.
Yeah.
That's what got me. It was that, is I could be doing literally anything else with my time than this right now, sitting here listening to this meeting. That is so pointless. So I was happy to get out. Yeah.
That's a huge issue. All right. So if these companies lose the opportunity to bring their people back in because their people are like, I am not coming back in the office, then what do we do with all this office space? We've talked about this before, and Jack Atteridge, I don't know if he's here today, but he mentioned that there's a study that says about 30% of these businesses are appropriate to be converted into residential. And the next article that we have talks about that. East Coast mayors call for more office to apartment conversions. This is really interesting. Opposite coast of you, Matt. Mayors in cities across the U.S. want to loosen rules that can show a pace of office to residential conversions that can slow the wait, hang on. What? Oh, they're loosening rules that slow the pace. So they're trying to speed the pace of the office to residential conversion. Sorry, my brain read that.
I thought more regulation helps things out. What do you mean?
In some instances, cities have offered generous tax abatements to developers who build new housing. We have a great opportunity to change the uses in downtown, said Washington, D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser at a December 2022 news conference. So they were even gearing up back then. It's absolutely a budget gimmick, said Erica Williams, executive director at the DC Fiscal Policy Institute, referring to the 2023 proposal to increase the downtown developer tax break. We fully support the idea that some of the buildings could be turned into residential properties or into mixed-use properties, but that we don't necessarily need to subsidize that. So they're saying, like, don't give any incentive to so one supporting it, give incentive to developers that are looking to take these buildings and turn them into residential. The other one says, oh, they should totally turn it into residential, but we shouldn't give any kind of break to do it. Now, the upfront cost, because only 30% of these buildings are actually ready to be retrofitted, the upfront cost of taking a building and doing that is enormous. And in my opinion, I think, you encourage the behavior you want with the tax breaks. That's what we've always done.
I don't, man, I'm always pretty anti-government, but there is a truth to the fact that's like, if we know the commercial is going to sit vacant, like, why do you have to incentivize it? Because they'll have to do it sooner or later, right? Like, what else are they going to do with it? And so, not to incentivize is actually a little bit more free market. It's not as free market because I know there's some ridiculous amount of red tape to cut through to convert something from commercial to residential and rezone and all the approvals. Like, I get all that stuff on that end, but it's an interesting take to just say, hey, look, like, if it makes sense for the developers to do it, they'll do it. You don't have to incentivize them.
Yeah, but you're also assuming that the taxes are constitutional, you Texan. Right?
Again, market specific.
Yeah.
Now, what they're saying is these taxes that they've been taking off of them, that's the incentive, is to remove the burden, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
Yeah. And on the flip side of that, I guess, too, is, coming from California, where our government is quite different from Texas. I'm more of the mind of giving a little bit to help the greater good can be a good thing. Obviously, I think there's a limit to that. But if the problem there is Tim, is if these developers can't do what they need to do to retrofit these buildings because the cost is so astronomical. And they say it almost makes less sense for us to front all these costs to make it into a working residential area. Then it just sits there vacant for everybody and nobody wins. To where instead of taking a little bit of a piece from whatever you want to do, however they want to organize that to make it feasible and possible for them to then retrofit these, then we're starting to actually fix and address the problem that we're having here, especially in our state, specifically, as you said, market specific, very specific to California, is housing problems. And if we can get some more affordable housing, some more doors for people to have homes in that, then that starts really addressing homeless. I mean, it really kind of webs and stems out. If we can all pitch in just a little bit in some way to help make that bigger goal happen, I think that is something that should be at least considered and looked at as well.
Well, in one, I'm on the side of making the buildings happen. I just thought it was kind of an interesting take, a different angle than I usually would.
You want to be spicy? You're spicing it up.
Well, it's kind of interesting. It's like, well, look, if that's what they need to do, they can do it anyway. But I do think, when you're thinking of it from a politician side, and I mean, at the end of the day, they're trying to drive, the evil politicians are trying to collect more taxes. I don't know what those buildings are worth in their current state. And then, like Matt said, they're going to lose value. And so, you get more people living in those buildings. The value of the building goes up. The taxes they pay on that building go up. The taxes people pay to local businesses go up, and all the things. So
more people buying stuff downtown.
More people,
tax revenue from purchasing. Yeah,
all the things. So I think they should do things to incentivize this and to make it happen. But it is an interesting take. Like, hey, sit around. Maybe they'll just do it on their own.
I feel like the first sign of this stuff is going to be the rezoning. Have you guys seen any rezoning happening from commercial to multifam or residential in your downtown? I haven't either.
Not for us.
Yeah.
And again, market specific, like we're building so many apartment complexes here in the San Antonio area. And like I said, I don't see a major drop in demand. There's probably some drop in demand for commercial, but I don't think there's this big need for people to convert to residential. Maybe there's one building I think they're going to do it, but again, I don't think it's like a across the market thing.
Tim, I want to ask you that. Do you think it's because you are seeing more businesses come to your state because of the costs? Like for California, businesses are leaving like crazy because the cost is just becoming too expensive. I mean, even major companies like Tesla, I mean, there's so many we could talk about. Do you think that's helping keeping your floor high and keeping you afloat in that sector? Because are you seeing an influx of businesses coming in from other more expensive areas?
Yeah, so people should know that are listening. I'm usually wrong in my hot takes. So just this is the hot take, but it's probably incorrect. Yeah, I think over the last couple of years we've seen a lot of businesses come to Texas. I think Texas obviously is known as a place to move business to and all that other fun stuff. But I do think it's interesting because the property values have gone up so much in Texas over the last 10 years that the cost of living is not as low as it used to be. And this may sound stupid, but I'm telling you, the heat they're dealing with this summer, I guarantee you there are people thinking like maybe Texas isn't where I want it to be. And I know Elon did move some of his operation back to California because there's only so many people that want to live in Texas. And look, I love it. I love San Antonio. We love where we live. But I do foresee a lot of that coming in. Like, I don't know if they're going to stay on this Texas boom that they've had for the last 10 years.
Everyone who doesn't know it, maybe a lot of millennials and younger, just search El Nino, SNL. That's how you find the appropriate information, brought to you by Chris Farley. Speaking of the need for more inventory, I think that's the main problem here. We have a report from Redfin that says just 1% of the nation's homes have changed hands this year. It's the lowest share in at least a decade. Only 1% of homes.
That's
home
insane.
listings disappeared during the pandy. It shows the downturn. So this is like Tim said, this is an insanely low number. This is according to Redfin's analysis of housing turnover compared to the first 6 months of 2023 with first 6 months of 2019 across different homes and neighborhood types. Turnover rate has shrunk in most of the suburbs. 16 of every 1,000 large suburban houses have changed hands this year, 2/3 as many as 2019. So there's neighborhoods that we're analyzing right now in our marketplace to see what kind of the turnover rate in various neighborhoods are for, marketing purposes. And we found 2 in the last couple of days that are 8 and 10%. So I feel like that's huge.
That's huge
compared to what we're seeing. Matt, why are people staying put?
Because they either bought a home or refinanced in the last 3 years and now have an interest rate of 2.5%, 3%, all the way up to even a 4%, which they're thinking, why would I sell my house to buy another house and pay double the interest rate? Why would that? Makes no sense. And so we have these people who are, for lack of a better word, locked into these low rates, and they're thinking, well, it doesn't make sense for us to move. We're happy here. We're good here. We're either going to wait for interest rates to go down, or we're going to sell when we absolutely have to. The last couple listings I've had in town here have been either investors, empty nesters, or people who are moving across the country or to a different state. It's not people looking to upgrade their house. It's not people looking to, make the little leapfrog to the next size or the next dream house that they want. It's because the people in their lives have to do it. Everybody else that I talk to is staying put because they're saying, Matt, I have a 3% interest rate. Why would I ever give that up? And yeah, I can't really blame them. That makes sense. I mean, that's something that they have to consider, where, I can song and dance it as much as I can to try to tell them the pros and the cons and what it does. And they say, Matt, can you get me a 3% interest rate? And I'm like, no, I can't. And they go, okay, well then talk to me in a few years when you can. Yeah, exactly.
Well, Ray, it'd be interesting, since you're the numbers guy. Maybe you're the numbers guy. I don't know.
I'm a nerd. Yeah. Okay.
I kind of threw that label at you.
I'm fine.
I'd be interested to see inventory compared to markets that are like pro construction and markets that are anti construction. So like markets where it's tough to build, right? There's a lot of regulation around building, and just people don't build that much. Compare it to inventory of where in markets where people are building a lot. Because I could tell you, I was just in our hometown of southeastern Connecticut, and I always check things out when I'm there. And there is nothing on the market because it's very hard to build there. There's a lot of restrictions around building. And so there's like 3 people building neighborhoods in that whole market. And so because of that, like Matt said, there's almost nothing on the market because there's either new construction homes or people died, like those are tend to be the things of people selling. So I do think that inventory is going to be super tight in these areas where people can't build. The other thing is, maybe I saw somebody comments on this post when I made about inventory. Maybe a lift on capital gains tax for investors that own rental properties.
They kind of went the opposite direction to that recently. They made it harder for investors to acquire properties.
Yeah, but nobody's doing anything to make it easier for them to sell properties.
I got it. I see what you're saying.
So if you could forego capital gains tax on properties owned for more than 3 years or something, like take some of these.
I was assuming as they let go of one, they would turn around and purchase another, but you're saying give them an opportunity to cash out.
Yeah.
That's not a bad idea. You think these big black what is it, Blackstone?
Blackstone.
These big companies that own, tons and tons, hundreds, thousands of properties would cash out, or do you think they're just going to keep it?
My realistic view of the market is I don't think it's going to crash. I think it's going to continue to go up a little. Like I think we're going to see pretty normal appreciation over the next couple of years. And if I'm right, they could be looking at the cash that they have and equity that they have, and they could see cashing out on that without paying taxes on it as a better deal than holding on to it for 3-4% appreciation over the next couple of years.
Well, and part of what you're saying kind of leads right into the next story, that homes are selling near recent highs. So near record highs. So even though the number of sales are down, the number of homes changed hands only is 1% or so.
Yeah.
The price of these homes is continuing to escalate. Look at this cool little graph on Redfin. It shows like a weird looking inn with a little extra hump in it, maybe like an R, and then it goes up again, and then it goes up again, up from 2012 all the way to where we are now, above 400,000 in 2023. And you could see, like, as this median sales price continues to climb, you could see that this, like, if you were in 2015, you're saying, okay, in a couple of years, I'm going to buy a house. There's no opportunity for you to buy it lower than it was at the time you were thinking about buying it, right? It's very limited window that you just have to be lucky to catch. I guess you could look at the pattern and catch it exactly, but it's a very clear pattern on this. But you can see the pattern starts to get wonky due to the pandemic. And we are in a upward trajectory now, which, I mean, it's bound to go down based on history. It's bound to go down a little bit and then up again, just like it did in 2022. So if you look at the change, so this is the median sales price as a percentage change. It has gone down recently and then kind of started to climb back up. But a lot of people are looking at this saying, well, it looks like the housing recession is over. And it made me think, what housing recession? Like, we haven't had a 10% correction, much less a recession. So maybe the fears of housing recession is over, but there hasn't been a housing recession, in my opinion. Or based on the numbers. Like, a recession is an economic, well, it used to be before the current administration redefined it. A recession was an economic calculation, which that's out of the window now. So I feel like there hasn't been a recession.
I love how perfect that graph is from like 2012 to 2020. It is just perfectly predictable.
All the way to that moment.
Oh, the pandemic hits is like what? Like, it's like the kid got a hold of the crayon and it just started going all over the place. It's just
That's
like, what
true.
the heck? Oh man. No, look, I think back on the subject, there's so many things we're trying to do to make it easier for people to buy a house, right? Like I said, with builders giving closing costs to buyers. We've got new home buyer programs. We're constantly talking about how we can make it easier for buyers to buy. But nobody is talking about how do we make it easier for sellers to sell, because that's where the problem is. And yeah, until we figure that out, I think we're going to keep having the wonky graph.
Yeah, that graph is pretty indicative, especially for our area. That really looks like you could have taken it in the San Francisco Bay Area and slapped it right onto ours specifically, because we did see that huge correction or downturn where the graph really, really took a dive there. But Ray, it's kind of what you were talking about. It was so temporary and wasn't as big as it should be to where people's fears of recession or crash were warranted. Because as you can see from the graph, a few months ago, we really kind of hit that bedrock, that rock bottom, and have started to bounce off of it here in the Bay Area. And while we're not seeing 20 over ask offers on a property like we did during pandemic, but that was, a real unicorn event. My second favorite type of coloring book, by the way, it was such a unicorn event that if you take that off of the picture, we are now seeing what a quote unquote normal market looks like here, where we're getting offers on Bay Area homes as long as they're updated and move-in ready and friendly to the buyer. We're seeing offers in just a couple weeks and either at ask or maybe a little bit over ask. Because the buyers still see the value in the Bay Area market. Especially if they've looked at the data or they have a real estate agent who really helps coach them up about it. Oh, it's all good. Hey, the Bay Area is going to continue to increase. That's what we're all kind of forecasting. The people who can go for it are looking for those homes that do justify the 7% interest rate, even if they buy it down a little bit, and the higher cost. So where they're getting in now, because the deal even now is still better than what it is probably going to be, as shown by that graph, over the next couple of years.
Yeah, and there's another article, we won't cover it. It's kind of the same topic on CNBC. It talks about housing market update, home prices rise for the first time in nearly 5 months. That's the crux. As people warm up to the rate, as they start to be like, okay, well, I'll just buy at 7%. And let's just do this thing because I got to move. There's still such a lack of inventory that's causing major issues. I think if there was more inventory, we would have seen a lot more than 1% of homes change hands. And you guys, well, even in San Antonio, but you guys on the coast, y'all were seeing multiple offers while we were still seeing sellers make concessions. We were still seeing people come in 2 or 3% below market, and they were asking for $3,000 to $5,000 to $6,000 of closing cost. And that was, people in our area would call that a normal market. And I kept telling people, no, it's a buyer's market. Like, buyers are getting the advantage. If a buyer sees a property and likes it, they can wait a couple of days, then put in their offer. That's a buyer's market. But everywhere else in the country was a seller's market. Multiple offers. Hey, we're selling in 3 weeks with multiple offers. This is amazing. And we were at 90 to 120 days on market. And so I think the flyover states for years that have been behind on those multiple offer situations because of the pandy and the spread of people across the US are kind of in line with it, where we're seeing some of the same things. And until the cities can become attractive again for the vast majority of people to move back into, and until they can have housing that is relatable and affordable to the bottom 80% of people that actually live in those cities, I think we're still going to see a lot of that, because people could take $1 million and in my market, buy a castle. And in a lot of markets on the West Coast, they can buy a small dinky home.
Yep.
Sorry for those of you that spend $1 million on a small dinky home, but it's your fault. I've got a beautiful listing with multiple views. One side has a river and a valley. The other side has a river and a mountain. It's on a big plot of land and a gated subdivision, 814,000.
Oh my God.
Gigantic home. So that's what you could get here. And a lot of people are looking at that, just like we were talking about the cloud culture and, people not working back in the office. They're saying, well, why am I living here when I could just go get a castle and be king? I think that's going to be that all that has to change in order for this market to flip back over. I want to go to the next one. This one came out today. It's talking about the refinance demand as well as purchase applications. So we know that the rate actually jumped back up, but interestingly, it recovered. So the rate jumped up, I think, last week, and this week it came down just a little bit. And as it came down just a little bit, the refinance demand recovered. So there are people refinancing at this rate, which that blows my mind. I'm thinking this is just a guess. And I want to look at what's happening with sales and stock prices of Home Depot and Lowe's. But I'm wondering if people are like, well, we're not going to move, but we have this tremendous amount of equity that built in the last couple of years. Let's refinance, take some of that equity and add on, because we're going to be here a little bit. And so I'm interested if this increase in refi translates to an increase in remodel activity, because people are deciding to stay put and enjoy the rest of their house on a low rate, but they're going to take this other chunk out at a higher rate. Let me read through this article real fast. Mortgage interest rates pulled back last week after jumping sharply to start in July. That lit a fire under refinance demand, but did little to help potential home buyers. Mortgage rates declined last week as the market responded positively to incoming data showing the U.S. inflation continues to cool. That was by Joel Kahn, the MBA's chief economist. Applications for a mortgage to purchase fell 1% for the week and were 21% lower than the same week in 2022. I wish they would start comparing this to like what it was in 2019. What was it then?
The year over year comparisons are tough.
Yeah.
I like the month over month comparisons to see how things are moving.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. Some fans, longtime fans of the show, saying "Con." Yeah. Take a break from the SCAP golf updates. If you guys are not involved in the chat on YouTube, you got to. I mean, they're having their own conversation there. A lot of it is following SCAP as he goes through, and he got a birdie, now he's got a bogey. So he is on the golf course listening to the show. So thanks for tuning in, SCAP. Let me get to this other article real quick, and then we have some industry tea. So this is what I want you guys to do. Neither of you knew that this article was coming. I did this on purpose. These 10 states are America's strongest housing markets, offering buyers the best value. Okay, best value, 10 states in America. All I want you guys to do is name the top 5. What top 5 states will offer the best value? Let's start at number 5. The 5th.
Wait. One thing we have to know though, is what news outlet is this coming from? Because that will definitely dictate what it is.
It's CNBC News. Let me tell you the data that they got. CNBC's annual competitiveness study called America's Top States for Business is watching. Listen, it doesn't really under 2023 methodology. Housing metric for economy
listen,
category.
I'm just asking because depending on who's doing the study is going to give you a lot different answer is all.
They even have like how we chose America's top states. They have a whole separate article about that. So, this is their own independent study, CNBC. What are the top 5? Start at number 5.
It's got to be value. Okay, here's the thing. Here, Tim, can we kind of gamify this a little bit? Because this is a good strategy game for me. It's all gonna be. It's not going to be any coast states. It's all gonna be like. Okay, I'm going. Georgia is number 5.
Georgia is number 5.
Is it really?
Oh, well, no. We're trying to hit. We're trying to hit 5 that are on. We're trying to name 5 and have them be on. All right. Is that the name of the game?
Yeah. So what do you think? I got a couple in mind. What do you think, Tim?
I'm saying North Carolina.
I'm saying South Carolina.
Yeah, North Carolina and South Carolina are 2 that I would definitely have on there.
Georgia, I think, is going to be in there. I think Alabama's going to be in there. We're just talking price, right? We're talking price and
value. Best value. So you have to look at the area.
Best value, yeah. So I'm skipping Alabama.
Ooh, okay.
We said North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia. I like those.
Okay.
I'm with Matt. I'm going to go for a little bit of a wild card and say Maine. I think Maine is a very interesting market.
Ginny suggests Oklahoma. Matt Lamarche says Maine, North Carolina, South Carolina, and Florida. Okay.
Yeah, Florida's getting so expensive, though. That's the thing. Like, it's starting to lose.
Yeah. See, I would have said Florida last year, but I think it's tough because it's just gone up so much in price and competition. Again, my hot takes are usually wrong, but there are a bunch of people that are cooking in Florida right now. They are melting.
You might be right. Okay, let's put Florida in there.
Florida may, but the thing is they always use lagging data. So, their predictions for what's going forward isn't necessarily the best.
Okay, I like those. I think we came up with some pretty good ones there for you.
What about, wait, no. I want to throw in, we're saying North Carolina, South Carolina.
Yeah, the Carolinas.
We're saying, I like Tennessee. I'm putting Tennessee in the mix.
Skep through in Tennessee there.
Yeah. I like Tennessee more than Florida.
I think Florida's going to be in there. I really do.
So Texas is big. You don't think anywhere in Texas would be best value?
No,
he says no. His own.
I think it's good. Like I think Texas is good, but I just don't think it's like the one to buy for future value. Yeah. Like Austin, I think it's good. But if we're talking about the places that I think are going to see the best place moving forward, those are the states I'm thinking about.
Okay, you ready?
Yes.
Yeah.
Coming in at a tie for number 6. So this is actually number 5 and number 6. So we'll call it number 5. There's a 4-way tie. That's stupid.
Okay. What? Why?
5-way tie. There's a 5-way tie. It's stupid.
What?
We're just gonna go with one of them that you mentioned. Georgia comes in tied for number 6, which is also number 5.
Let's go.
Georgia. Okay.
And the reason why they said is because appreciation was 11.4%, affordability score is 0.65, starts per 1,000 is 7.2, foreclosure rate 1 in 3,506, underwater mortgages only 3%. I'm not going to read them all for you. I just wanted everyone
all those. I just invested in Georgia, and those things that you just named off are definitely some of the reasons.
2023 economy rank is number 4. Okay, North Carolina number 4.
Nice.
Boom.
Let's go.
So you got that one. Number 3, no one mentioned, so I'll come back to.
Ooh, okay.
Whoa.
Yeah, number 2 is South Carolina. So
okay.
That one.
Yes.
You got that one. And number 1 was Florida.
Yes.
Okay.
So right. Y'all were pretty good. I would say.
What did we miss?
What was the mystery 3?
Yeah, I don't think you'll ever guess it. So their 2023 economic rank was 38, which is the top state's grade of D+, but their appreciation was 12.2%, affordability score 0.67, You're never going to guess it. Despite the lackluster economy, home buyers have been discovering the Pine Tree State and sending prices upward. Do you know what the Pine Tree State is? Home builders in this area took a cue last year with strong activity per capita basis. As a result, affordability has gotten out of hand. Maine, number 3.
I said Maine.
Tim said Maine. He did.
I didn't think he said Maine.
He did.
Oh, you never listen to me, Ray.
He said it's an interesting market. He said, and I quote, "It is an interesting market."
But I didn't hear him add it to his list. You know, we also
I said Maine.
He said it. Okay. Hey, we got all 5. Let's go.
Yeah, you got all 5.
The reason why I said Maine was because, like I said, we spent some time in Connecticut, Massachusetts, in like New Hampshire, Vermont, Maine. That little thing up there is kind of hiding, and I know more and more people just kind of getting away from stuff and getting up there. It's definitely a spot I think is going to do well in the future.
I want to go visit there. Oh yeah. See, Ginny's on your team. She says he did. Okay.
We're professional realtors. We got all 5, baby.
Yeah, I am pretty impressed with you guys actually getting all 5. I mean, this is why we have the top guest on the show. Even the commenters were getting some of these right. Ginny said Ohio, and she also got that right. That was one of the ties for 6th place, which is also number 5. So there you go. Okay, so there's 2 things in the industry T I want to cover real quick. One is a story that we've been covering. I don't like to spend a lot of time on it, but it's a hot topic in the industry. There's a EXP team leader that was accused of assault. This is a big headline. Seeks to protect sex tapes.
All right. Yeah. Listen, I'll be short on this because I have friends that I know that are involved in, like, I think the news here, one, is that Glenn Sanford got named. So I know there was a lot of back and forth in the Inman news because he is now a defendant, is what it is. Yeah. And look, Glenn's a good guy. He's been great to me. So I don't want, I don't have negative things to say about Glenn. He's always been good to me. The thing I would say around this whole thing is, if you actually care about it, dig in and read what's going on in the court case. Like, you can read the lawsuit. You can read these things, because whenever you read a comment section, which, by the way, the comment sections on this have been disgusting,
blowing up. Yeah.
If you read the comment sections, if you read the headline, you read the article, like, you're just going to get pushed in some direction towards some opinion. Read the legal things. Like, they're not super exciting, but it's where you'll get the best information so you can have your best opinion on it, and just stay away from the comment sections.
Yeah. Another reason why I wanted to bring this up is because I saw some early comments saying that Glenn was involved. He was not involved like that.
I will say this: when you have a company and there is an underlying issue in the company, and it's your company, so it's not like whether or not he was involved, it's whether or not he knew about it. It's whether or not other people knew about it and did nothing or didn't do enough. And that's really what that whole thing is. When
Inman originally published the article, it was a picture of Glenn with these words over, and I think they got a call because they took that down and changed it quick, which is interesting. So anyway, there that is. It's a hot topic in the industry. You guys check it out. I would totally echo. And this is, again, why we do the show and why I like to bring up this type of topic, just to shed a light on it, but also tell you to go look at the actual lawsuit thing. Don't spend a lot of time looking at someone else's take on the issue. If you're really interested in it, dig in and see what it says. And I agree with Tim. Avoid the comments. So the next article is also kind of industry tea. Well, I guess you could say the reason why I put it in industry tea is because it's the Fed Bank and kind of coming after AI. And it's coming after AI for the same exact reason why we said on the show, this could be bad. There were some people on Reddit that were looking at AI and they were saying, oh, this will replace the real estate agent. And they were showing everything you could do and all this other kind of stuff. And we know that it's not going to fully replace the real estate agent, but a lot of the tasks and questions that we get asked can be replaced because it's actually pretty accurate. But one of the things that the AI doesn't know to do is not to violate fair housing. And the Fed banking regulator warns that AI could lead to illegal lending practices like excluding minorities. Michael Esbar, the Fed's vice chair of supervision, said AI technology has a potential to get credit to, quote, people who otherwise can't access it. While these technologies have enormous potential, they can also carry risk of violating fair housing laws and perpetuating the very disparities that we have to potentially address. So basically, whatever the data is being fed into the AI is making determinations based on that data, and it turns out it has potential to be basically redlining. One of the things you can ask I don't know if it's the Zillow plugin who answers or if it's ChatGPT who answers, but you could basically say, hey, what neighborhoods have this or that ethnicity in it? And it will tell you, in this part of California is mostly this kind of ethnicity, and here's the people that live there. And that's something that as an agent, we've been told, no, all over the place. We can't answer those kind of questions because it could lead to people saying, well, I don't want to live near this group or that group. I just want to live by people like me. And Fair Housing has determined that you can't do that. Well, you can do that as a consumer, but you can't ask an agent to draw those lines for you. So, what's your take on this? Is this a fair housing issue or is this a data issue?
I mean,
Ray,
could it possibly be both hand in hand? I mean, that's the problem with data learning, especially for an artificial intelligence. I'm sure we've all seen the sci-fi movie where the artificial intelligence becomes self-aware, downloads all the data of what humans are, and comes to the decision of, oh, humans are the worst. I'm just going to take everybody out because that's going to solve every problem that this world has. And that's the problem with it is you need that discerning thinking mind of where you don't just plug everything into an equation, because doing so, especially when it comes to humanity and the world and culture and everything else that are intangible, can really get you into trouble if you just boil it down to a number or a syntax or something along those lines, which is why this is such a human job and is one of the things that I think gets underestimated a lot when it comes to real estate, is how much we actually deal with humans and the human condition and emotions and thoughts and feelings, and being able to navigate people through those things, not only in a productive, but an ethical manner as well. I think those are things that are going to be very difficult for AI to replace or take over.
I think, Ray, we talked about on when we have our agent masterminds where we're working with agents and talking to them about how they should be using AI. We said, look, like you can treat ChatGPT and you can treat AI like it's your assistant. And you start asking it to do things that you would ask your assistant to do, like write this blog post or do this, do that. And it's amazing the things that it can do.
Redline this neighborhood. No,
but that gets to my point where, like, you wouldn't ask your assistant to negotiate a contract for you. You wouldn't ask your assistant to, do the work that a licensed professional needs to do. And it gets to be some of the same. Like AI can do a ton of things for us that are great and all this other stuff, but you can't have it be doing some of the, qualifications for buyers that you really need a licensed person to be handling.
Well, it's interesting. In order to do those qualifications, you would have to actually have input from that outside mind, right? And that input from that outside mind would have to alter data for this or that circumstance. And there's so many of those that it's almost impossible, because now you're polluting the algorithm that it's using to calculate things according to the data. So it's not all data driven, apparently. And I think that's the point where people just need to admit it's not data driven. It's policy driven. And if
you're talking about for mortgage and a lot of stuff.
For mortgage. Yeah.
Of course.
It's well, and rules in real estate. There's several rules that are just policy driven, that are not data driven, because experience has shown that only going by the data does affect some groups more than others. And that's what, that's the weird part.
I will say, for the future of things, like AI has been able to take these data points and has started to reason, right? Which is the scary part. It's reasoning now. It's thinking now. I don't foresee a world where you can't input policies and make AI aware of policies that has to operate in the lines of. I think, we're really a year into this AI boom and it just hasn't happened yet. So
Yeah.
I foresee a world where AI knows policies and can operate within them.
Scap, he had his hand raised. So Scap is an appraiser. He deals with a lot of data. And Scap was actually on the show when we were talking about how a lot of data, there were some appraisers that were basically appraising a home for one race differently than they would appraise a home for another race, basically. So Scap had some valuable input on that. Scap, what do you think about this? The AI or the data-driven approach actually causing fair housing issues?
I think that nobody knows what the hell they are getting themselves into. That's what I think. I mean, everybody wants to make technology better. Everybody wants to make things better. They say, oh, well, if we just eliminate the human element out of it and let the computer do it, there'll be no bias. There'll be no anything. Here's the thing. The thing is that every single type of AVM or anything out there is data driven. It's being driven by UAD. It's being driven by AUS. It's being driven by everything out there that's being put out there. So if you are a real estate agent and you're putting in your MLS listing and you're saying, oh, well, it's got a master bedroom. Now, we're not allowed to say master bedroom anymore as an appraiser. We have to say primary or something else.
Clean it up.
Yeah, you gotta make sure that it's totally clean now. But these are the terms. I mean, I get lists daily from AMCs that I work with that say, oh, these are words that are now banned. And it's like, wait a minute here. How am I just supposed to describe a neighborhood or describe something out there and not utilize these terms? I'm no longer allowed to say, oh, there's an abandoned home next door. Ooh, that's too taboo. There's an abandoned home. Well, it is abandoned. What am I supposed to say? So
what are you? What are a vacant property? Isn't that the same thing?
I have yeah, but when you get into like the situations when you're like in inner cities like Atlanta and stuff, and you have a house and there's an abandoned, boarded up home next door, you have to describe it correctly because everything has to be politically correct. But getting back to the data
occupied
thing,
sorry,
everything that you agents put into the MLS is going to be obtained by a third party and put out there in what they're doing and what they say and how they're doing things with their algorithms. Anything going through Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, they flag appraisers now for saying master bedroom, master bathroom. Oh, you got to change that name. This is why your loans get held up, because now they have to go back to the appraisers because they can't say that word. So when I look at all this stuff, it is data driven. Everything now that they're trying to do is data driven. And the data that's being put out there through every MLS, through every appraisal, through everything out there, it's all being compiled together. And that is what's changing things. You really need to be conscious of what you're saying and what you're putting out there in your listings and in your descriptions. You can no longer say, oh, this is a superior neighborhood to this neighborhood, or this is a better neighborhood because of its HOA. You can't say that any of that.
So to kind of shorten it, like whenever a real estate agent's using marketing speak to say this is one of the most desirable neighborhoods in the area, AI doesn't know that you're marketing. And so AI is pulling data from everywhere. So now when you ask AI, hey, what's the most desirable neighborhood in Little Rock? It's going to pull the data from the sources it thinks and kind of matches it and goes through its whole process and then spits out stuff, the data that's out there that is supposedly by reliable sources, but maybe just marketing. That's an interesting, I haven't thought of that yet, but that's interesting.
But if you're putting in, I mean, who's to determine what a desirable area and what's not desirable? I mean, obviously it's your buyers and sellers, but if you as an agent are saying, oh, it's the most desirable area here, oh, it's the most desirable subdivision, as you're putting that information out there and it gets on the internet, well, AI is collecting that. And now they're going to compute that to say this is the most desirable. Well, somebody may not think that's most desirable or whatever.
Which as an agent, you're thinking, well, that doesn't matter because I can still sell my house. But your next listing may not be in that area, boss. So now you're poisoning yourself. You're messing up your own market. That's interesting.
And that's what's going to mess up the whole AI thing is that when you start putting in your own verbiage and your own ideas, well, the other agent may not have the same ideas as you, or another agent may have. That's where it starts to create this conflict, and
just
that's
pollutes
why
everything.
Well, now that's why you see Congress and everybody getting involved with AVM, saying let's make AVMs less unbiased. Well, how are we going to make anything unbiased when everybody that's putting in the information
is biased? Well, thanks for joining us. I hate that you took the time away from your round of golf to come on, but I appreciate you going through the trouble, Scap, to put in your input.
I've got a par putt coming up, and everybody's waiting for me, so I gotta go.
All right, buddy. Good luck. Thank you again. There you go, everyone. So there's Scap. He has a little bit to say about the data, but he's right. We're putting in a lot of marketing speak into the world out there that the machines are going to interpret as actual data, and it's conflicting data. I tell a lot of my clients like, hey, we have to have a home with a garage. I was like, okay, but when I put in your search, I'm not going to sort by homes with a garage. They're like, why not? I said, because you could see from the front of the house if it has a garage. However, not every agent is going to toggle the thing that says garage. So the data in is only as good as the worst real estate agent in your market who's inputting data. So otherwise the data in the MLS would be perfect, right? But nope, not everyone puts in the accurate data. And then that goes out and is then crawled by the machines, by ChatGPT or Claude, who's the new AI, by the way. If you haven't used Claude.ai, you got to check it out. All right. Anything else to say on that, Matt or Tim, before I let you go?
Yeah, just really quick to touch on it. That was sort of, he touched on why I don't think that I would want AI learning from the internet, because I that's the last thing I want is for some governing robot to go, how do I treat humans? And then they read the internet and go, oh, I see. I guess I just destroy everything. No thanks. No thanks. And yeah, everything is subjective, which went back into my point of why I think real estate agents are going to continue to exist, because there is so much subjectivity to navigate through that we need to be there to help discern and get our clients from point A to point B.
Yeah, very true. I like your robot voice too, by the way.
Thanks.
It's good luck topping the robot voice, Tim.
Yeah, I don't know if I like his robot voice or his passion for sea creatures more, but they're both neck and neck. Look, I will say this. I see tons of potential issues with AI being used more and more, like we talked about. I will also say, though, that last year I would have judged AI's ability to plan a vacation for me at about 0. But if I go into ChatGPT right now and say, hey, what should I do in Paris next week? It gives me a ridiculously well thought out response. And for all the stuff Scap said, like, I agree with him. Like, the data is awful and all this other stuff. But AI's ability to decipher through bad data and good data and give you the best possible stuff, like, it is getting better and better, faster and faster. So, like, I think we had a good conversation about this in July of 2023. But I'm interested to see, like, what this discussion looks like in July of 2024, because AI may be doing a ton more stuff. And Matt, shout out, bro. I got you.
Love
I appreciate it.
Saying hi to his French family there.
Listen, Matt and I got cloud culture to go start. So, him and I are in this to win it.
Well, I don't know if I've been learning French for like 148 days, just waiting on you to take me. So I'm excited about
on Duolingo.
Can't wait. Yeah. Can't wait to go.
Listen, Pod's been doing the same thing. You can score as many points as you want there, and you're going to show up to France and be like, comment say what? Like, what?
Yeah. Je parle français.
Je suis un chat. Like, what?
Like, I think you said baguette. I think I heard baguette in there.
That's all I know. Well, thank you guys for joining us. Tim, tell everybody where they can find you after the show, man.
Yo, hit me on the gram. Tim Macy Realtor. Love to see you there.
Tim Macy Realtor. Go chase him down there. And Mr. Matt, What are all the outlets that people can visit you with?
Yeah, you can find my underwater coloring book published incoming soon to a store near you. But for the most part, you can find me mostly on Instagram, Matt Petullo. Hit me up on there. Add me as a friend. Let's start a conversation. Here to help however I can.
Nice. And you want to talk about your show? Is your show? Yeah, your show's public. He's got a show coming out.
Which show is that?
Babes.
Oh, yeah. With my buddy, Roland Osage, who's another agent with me here in the Bay Area. We're coming out with a video first podcast called The Bay Area Boys, where we talk about everything that has to do with the Bay Area, real estate, sports, food, entertainment, community culture, everything about it. So if you want to learn more about the Bay Area, we're going to be coming out with that hopefully later on this week, and we'll start putting it out everywhere.
I'm trying to push him to call it Bay Area Boys Edutainment.
No, it's called Babes.
I think you should call it Babe. It's not.
No, Babes is amazing.
See, I told you, Babes would be cool. Bay Area Boys is great though. I like it. But
you can do BAYB or something. I don't know, but Babes. Yeah. I'm calling it Babes. I don't know what you're calling it, but that's what I'm calling it.
Go for it. We love it.
Yeah, man, I gotta help you flip your camera too because your Bay Area sign is backwards. But okay.
I know, but I don't like the. Never mind.
I want a Babes t-shirt.
Oh, he didn't like the yellow on that. Okay, I got it. No.
Yeah.
Well, thanks everybody for joining the show. You can find me at Ray Zorback. That's RAYZORBACK, and we will be back